University of DC Concept Lab. Today we're talking about neuroscience, sciences, and artificial intelligence. My name is Vitalis Tita. I'm the VP Communication here at the Chamber. And for those of you who don't know what the African Chamber of Digital Commerce stands for, what we do is we're using or leveraging emerging technology to advance development in the continent, as simple as that, and also in the diaspora nations. So today, um, we are looking at different initiatives all over the continent, and I'm just going to list a few of them here as we look forward to moving to this event. We focus on Rural Industrial Zone, which is a cooperative trade hub designed to grow, to spur the growth in the hinterlands of Africa. And we also have what we call the AC of DC Fund, which is a community investment fund whose goal is to raise about 100 million to fund development projects in Africa and African diaspora nations. We also have what we call the Ideation Lab, right? The hybrid incubator, accelerator, and the mentorship program that is meant to accelerate rural entrepreneurship. And then amongst many others that I won't have the time to mention here today is also the rural capacity building that is designed to support our emerging opportunities on the continent. So we're using the platform today that is called EARMIT, and it's our first time running that here at the Chamber. And I just want to go through some few etiquettes about this. It's very new to me. I've taken some time to learn, and I want to share with you how we can make this experience, very enjoyable for all of us. So you could see at the right-hand corner on the far right, there's a list of different options, then icons that you can look at. So you can raise your hand. You can also chat. You can click on the chat feature and be able to chat with others on the call or on the platform or in the audience. And you can also ask questions. So you can please use one of those as you feel the need appropriately. And if you want a question, please don't send a question in through the chat link. You can go and click on the question tab, and you can be able to submit your question through that. During this presentation, we're going to listen carefully. There's going to be a time where we're going to have a breakout where we can go back to the lounge. Fortunately for us, this platform provides the opportunity for us to go onto the lounge and break out in different rooms. We have the opportunity to go there as a means for us to be able to network and also get to talk, maybe one-on-one or close-up conversation with our guest here today. So that opportunity will come after the presentation, and after that we'll head back to the main event or the main auditorium where we can be able to have some question and answer sessions and also comments as well. So without further ado, I just want to introduce you to the moderators today. So here with me is Maha Joini. She is Artificial Intelligence Executive Director at African ICT Foundation and also Regional Executive Director at Africa Chamber of Digital Commerce. Along with her today, teaming is Mr. Howard England. Howard is the founder and CEO of Quatrox Z Consulting LLC, and also serves in his capacity as an advisory board member here at the AAC of DC. Welcome to the both of you, and I'm going to hand it over to you to take the opportunity to introduce our guests for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you. Bonjour tout le monde. Honored and pleased to receive you here in our panel discussion about neurosciences and artificial intelligence, where we are going to tackle the issue on asking this question: what kind of relations we'll have between AI and neurosciences? Is it fascinating relation? Is it threat to a human being? All your questions are welcoming, and I'm pleased and honored to receive Professor Silvanus, and I give the floor to Howard to introduce for us our professor. And Howard, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maha.
Mhm.
Thanks for that, Maha. So it's my great pleasure and honor to introduce Dr. Silvanus Adetukunbo Ayeni. Forgive me for butchering your name. And Dr. Ayeni is a neurosurgery, a doctor of neurosurgery. He went to the University of Lagos College of Medicine School, resident general surgery, University Hospital, residency, University of Wisconsin, neurological surgery, and residency, neurological surgery, St. Louis University School of Medicine, and several state medical license certification in the United States of America. So without further ado, I turn the floor over to Dr. Ayeni. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Howard. Thanks for inviting me to participate in this Concept Lab session. This talk will be divided into two sections. The first is the interface between artificial intelligence in general and neurosciences and its impact on humanity. The second section will be the situation with Africa and how Africa fits into this space and how it can take advantage of this technology. Self-driving vehicles, robotic surgeons, robots in factories, industries, shopping centers, airports, schools, research laboratories, farms, NASA's Perseverance rover landing on Mars. Artificial intelligence and deep machine learning are here and will continue to be woven solidly into the fabric of human life. One of the most prominent people in this arena is Mr. Elon Musk, the founder of SpaceX and Tesla companies. In 2016, he founded the company Neuralink with the short-term goal of creating a brain-computer interface by implanting a computer chip called the link in the human brain, which will wirelessly connect the brain to a computer and the digital world. Their long-term goal is to treat various neurological conditions like paralysis, stroke, depression, hearing loss, visual loss, and also to allow humans to be broadly competitive with rapidly expanding artificial intelligence. Now, what does it mean to be a human being? One of the most important elements of being human and one of the most difficult to define is consciousness. Now, I will define it as recognition of self, that I am XYZ. Other human features are the mind, knowledge, memory, intelligence, creativity, happiness, empathy, the soul, sin, trials and tribulations, pain, and of course the finality, death. Now, the concept of language in the neurosciences encompasses speaking, comprehension, writing, reading, calculation, repetition, and naming of objects. So, artificial intelligence means non-biologic intelligence. Other terms that you will come into contact with are shown here. Now, progress in artificial intelligence leads to higher level intelligence, including artificial general intelligence, which is human level intelligence, intelligence explosion, superintelligence, singularity, and cyborg, which is human-machine hybrid. Now, what is a neural network? It is a group of neurons connected to each other structurally and functionally. The human brain consists of about 100 billion neurons, and each neuron connects to about 1,000 other neurons, forming about 100 trillion synaptic connections. Artificial neural networks are computational models inspired by the human brain that can spot patterns and recognize relationships between vast amounts of data, billions of them. Then there is machine learning and also deep learning neural networks. This is a photo of a deep neural network which has several layers. And this is a graphic representation of the term the singularity. The singularity is a hypothetical point in the future of mankind at which artificial intelligence will match human intelligence and take off and become uncontrollable. This is a slide of a neuron of the human brain, which essentially consists of 4 parts. The body containing the nucleus, then these extensions from the body called the dendrites, and then the axon through which the information travels, and the terminus here, which connects with other neurons by what we call synaptic connections. Now, artificial neurons are the core. They are the core components of artificial neural networks. Each neuron, as you can see here, this X1, X2, X3, etc., gets input from several other artificial neurons. Then it multiplies, then assigns certain weights, and then gets activated and transmits information to other artificial neurons. And this is a model. You can see it side by side with real biologic neurons. This is one of the pioneers of artificial neural networks, Professor Geoffrey Hinton of the University of Toronto in his laboratory. Now, how potent are artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, and deep reinforcement learning neural networks? In 1997, when IBM's Deep Blue computer defeated world chess champion Garry Kasparov, its power was only in memory and computation, not in learning. It couldn't learn. It could only compute. But in March 2016, Google's DeepMind AlphaGo defeated legendary Go player Lee Sedol, who had already won 18 world titles. This is a photo of the Neuralink implant called the Link. It consists of a small device with threads containing electrodes which detect signals in the brain. They have been implanted in the brains of pigs and monkeys. And last year, Mr. Elon Musk reported that a monkey was able to play video games with his mind. As you can see, these are the monkeys that they implanted the small devices in. Now, for decades, neurosurgeons have implanted electrodes in the brain to treat various neurological conditions. Like in this slide, the deep brain stimulation electrode is inserted in an area of the brain called the thalamus, deep in the brain. However, the Neuralink coin-sized device with its multiple tiny electrodes are implanted on the surface of the brain, and it processes and transmits neural signals through 1,024 channels. Now, the device is placed in the area of the brain which controls the function that Neuralink wishes to influence. Now, in this slice, obviously, the bone has been removed from the skull on the left side, but Neuralink doesn't do this, okay? They don't remove the skull. They just make a small cut in the skin, in the skull, and then drill a tiny hole and put the device through that hole. You don't even see it. But I just put this slide here to show you what the human brain looks like. And I notice the way the brain looks, its color, the arteries in red, the veins in blue, and its shape. That's the way a healthy brain looks in every human being on this planet, no matter which continental group you belong to. Now, this is an important point. It will come up later in the talk. In June 2020, a new and powerful AI, artificial intelligence, was created by the research firm OpenAI in San Francisco. The device, called GPT-3, generative pre-training, even astonished veteran software developers. GPT-3 had been trained on around 200 billion words and could generate fluent words. It can write songs, it can tell stories, press releases, essays, technical manuals. It can blog, it can translate languages, even write its own computer programs. It can generate tweets, it can write poetry. OpenAI has trained a neural network called DALL-E to create images from texts, from a wide range of text captions. As you can see in this picture, you see the text on the left side and the images on the right side. An astonishing feat. So, where do we stand now and in the very near future regarding artificial intelligence? It will certainly continue to impact all facets of human life and will eventually impact human life for the better and hopefully not for the worse. Artificial intelligence has significant applications in communications, including the media, energy, finance, healthcare, manufacturing, transportation, space exploration, and the military. And the issue of autonomous weapons is very troubling. Various groups have their optimism and skepticism about artificial intelligence. One major question is, when will artificial intelligence, as you can see on this slide, when will artificial intelligence surpass human level intelligence? Most people think it will probably occur in the next few decades. Despite its ability to profoundly affect human lives positively, unchecked artificial intelligence can generate unintended negative consequences in the future and even catastrophe. Several scholars, artificial intelligence researchers, including Mr. Elon Musk and Mark Stegmark, an MIT professor and author of Life 3.0, from which I must report I took a few of of what I'm using in this presentation, and other like-minded scientists, philosophers, economists belong to the beneficial artificial intelligence movement. The aim of this movement is to promote the good of AI while advocating for measures to curtail its potential catastrophic effects, this beneficial AI movement. Unfriendly AI is one of those events, as you see on this slide, together with uncontrollable global pandemic, nuclear war, catastrophic climate change, that can alter or even destroy life as we know it, or permanently curtail its potential within the next 10 to 100 years. So this is an issue that we have to take seriously. Also, there is the fear among several constituencies that improved and better automation due to progress in AI will lead to loss of jobs and a worsening economic inequality. If human beings, if we are to achieve progress in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and prevent worsening economic inequalities, the issues raised by the beneficial artificial intelligence movement must be seriously addressed. So, what are the implications of artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, and artificial neural networks for Africa? Before I delve into that, let's consider a brief history of the continent. There was ancient Egypt, one of the earliest and greatest civilizations in human history. There was the great West African empires of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. Emperor Mansa Musa presided over Mali from 1312 to 1337, a period of success in trade, scholarship, and learning. Mali was the second largest empire in the world at that time. Then there was the Kingdom of Kush and the Benin Empire, which is the last of the great African empires and was destroyed by the British in 1897. Africa is the most diverse continent on this planet, genetically, ethnically, culturally, and linguistically. With a population of 1.3 billion, Africa has as many living languages, almost as much as Asia, with a population of 4.5 billion. Living languages, 2,000 plus, Asia also 2,000 plus. With a median age of less than 20, Africa is the youngest continent on this planet. Many scholars consider Imhotep of ancient Egypt as the first physician of the ancient world. He lived more than 2,000 years before the Greek physician Hippocrates, who is generally considered the father of medicine in the Western world. So, given this rich history of excellence and accomplishments of the ancestors of the current edition of Africans, we current Africans, what happened? Why does Africa today find itself neck deep in its current predicament? The next 6 photos were taken between 2018 and 2020. Please look at this first two. This is the first one. And this is the second one. Again, first, right here, and this second one. And try and guess what these photos are about. I will tell you about them in a minute. These 2 slides. Now, this is a picture taken in August 2018 in Nigeria, in Ezionum Delta State. It was my first visit to the state under the auspices of our non-profit organization, Pan-Africa Children Advocacy Watch, as we expanded our activities in Nigeria to collaborate with the local non-profit, the Olise Omolu Foundation. Now that's me here. See me in this multicolored Nigerian dress. This is the headmistress of the school, and this is the CEO and the founder of the local non-profit organization with which we collaborated. These are high school kids, senior high school, sitting on stools, standing by the window, sitting on dilapidated tables and chairs. Now, this is a photo of primary school children in another part of Africa, this time, not Nigeria. This is a photo of primary school children in Seoul, South Korea, in April last year, in the early part of the pandemic. Compare that with this photo of a home class lesson in Malawi. Now, let us go back to the two previous slides that I showed you. These two rooms. Obviously, I can't see you, so I don't know what you thought about them. But these two rooms and their contents are the science laboratories of the public high school in Nigeria, in a state which contains a significant amount of the major commodity, petroleum and its products, that powers the greatest economy in Africa. So the question is, where did all the billions of dollars from oil go? Now, the 18th century Enlightenment great philosopher Rousseau had this to say on education. Plants are shaped by cultivation, men, people, by education. We are born weak, we need strength. We are born totally unprovided, we need aid. We are born stupid, we need judgment. Everything we do not have at our birth, which we need when we are grown, is given to us by education. So, what is your answer to the question I posed earlier? What happened to the ethos of self-development and excellence displayed by our ancestors, African ancestors? Legacy of slavery, colonialism, imperialism, or the Berlin Conference of 1884-1885, during which Africa was sliced into pieces by the European powers without any input from the natives? Or is it all of the above? Or is it the enemy within? First, let us ask the question, is Africa really poor? The continent has enormous natural resources and 1.3 billion human brains. It has less cyclical natural disasters. It has more rainfall. Sub-Saharan Africa in particular has more rainfall than most other regions of the world. The average rainfall per year in millimeters in Australia is 534. South and Central Asia, a little over 1,000. In the United States, less than 800 millimeters, rain plus snow. Middle East and North Africa, under 200. Sub-Saharan Africa, almost 1,100 millimeters. Three of the most poorest countries on this planet have almost twice, at least 1.5, as much rain as other regions of the world. Yet, Sub-Saharan Africa has the largest percentage of population in the world without access to clean water. Corruption has been often mentioned as the major factor for Africa's poverty, but is that the whole story? The great poet, Professor Chinua Achebe, of late, the author of the famous book Things Fall Apart, had this to say. He believes that the problem lies in the failure of the rulers to establish that vital inner link with the poor and dispossessed of their nations. Obviously, in this country, who was speaking in context of his own country. So that brings me to this slide, a very pivotal slide, which by itself requires a 3-day symposium. But the bottom line is this. The problems of Africa cannot be solved without mindset shift, transformational leadership, and good governance. This is the triple vertical superstructure that controls all the elements in what I call this horizontal limb. This is the horizontal limb. It is in this horizontal limb where all development efforts operate. The reason why the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the United Nations, and all its agencies, the United States Agency for International Development, thousands of religious entities, scores of multi-billion-dollar foundations, who have spent more than $1 trillion in Africa in the past 60 years have failed to lift the continent from the floor or the basement is because everything operates in this horizontal space. The way I see it now, development efforts today are still making that error. All the digital startups, including the tech giants, Google, Facebook in Africa, China, India, are all operating in this horizontal space. Without addressing this vertical superstructure, which is the cornerstone and the foundation for the success of everything in this horizontal space, Africa will not catch up with the developed world. Africans must absorb a new mindset of who they are in reality, not what the world thinks about them. So who are Africans in reality? We are the progenitors of mankind. There is only one human race. And all of us, the 7.8 billion of us, we are our brains. We are not the color of our skin. The color of the skin has absolutely nothing to do with the quality of the output of the human brain. Let me let that sink for a couple of seconds. That is pivotal for the existence of the 1.3 billion Africans. The word race is a social construct which has no basis in science, creation, or evolution. The Human Genome Project, conducted about 2 decades ago, put that to rest. It published its findings in the 2 top scientific journals in the world, Nature and Science, and it showed unequivocally that there is only one human race. This is the brain of the CT scan of the brain of a human being. This is the MRI of the brain of a human being from side to side. We call it the sagittal section. So go from side to side. And this is the brain of a human being looking from the back. Nobody can tell whether all the pictures I've shown you now or the brain you are looking at is that of a Sudanese, a Nigerian, a Kenyan, a Chinese, Japanese, German, Jew. They all look the same. And if we take a piece from them, the histology looks the same. So the Lord has given us everything we need to take care of ourselves. The major challenge facing Africa in participating in the 4th industrial revolution and leapfrogging the industrial revolution, which has bypassed the continent. If you want to leapfrog into the 4th industrial revolution, you must take care of the poor leadership, infrastructure, subpar education, especially STEM knowledge, and the lack of competitiveness with other segments of the human race. Howard French, who was the Africa bureau chief for New York Times in the 1980s and 1990s, wrote this book, Africa, China's Second Continent. It speaks for itself. That by itself can take a 3-day symposium. Thankfully, a few African leaders have made the pivotal U-turn and are piloting their nations along the right trajectory. One of them is President Paul Kagame of Rwanda. Speaking at the African Leadership Forum in 2018, he had this to say: I would rather argue that we need to mobilize the right mindsets rather than more funding. Africa has everything it needs in real terms, but Africans remain mentally married to the idea that nothing can get moving without external finance. We are even begging for things we already have. That is absolutely a failure of mindset. I completely agree with him. The president of Ghana, speaking during a visit by the prime minister of France, the president of France, Macron, he told him that Ghana no longer needs their foreign aid. And he had this to say. He said, I hope the comments I'm about to make will not offend the reporter who asked the question and his guest who was standing there. He said, we have to get away from this mindset of dependency. The Ghanaian president has been on a national campaign to build a Ghana beyond aid. One of the greatest world leaders of the 20th century, the late Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore, took his nation, Singapore, from the ground floor to the mountaintop in one generation. And this is one of my favorite books, which I recommend for everybody and every African leader. Singapore, with virtually zero natural resources and not a single development expert in the world gave it any chance of survival when it separated from the Malaysian Federation in August 1965. Went from third world to first world in one generation. That is a powerful example for Africans. So back to my vertical superstructure. Mindset shift, transformational leadership, good governance. That is what upholds everything here in the horizontal space. This is where we are now. ICT, AIG, research, investment, everything. People, build the Chinese building roads in Africa. People supplying electricity, United Nations, UNESCO, investment, everybody. Unless taken care of, situation will remain the same as it has been for 60 years. So for the spiritually minded and the philosophically minded, this is for you. The issue of Imago Dei, the image of God. Our leaders must have this in their mind. The love of God, love of their neighbors, truth, life with meaning, and the issue of justice. One of my favorite books is Plato's Republic, a philosophical book which has a tremendous exposition of justice. And if you are interested, The Ring of Gyges is a famous thought experiment in the book. And the question for future African leaders is, what will they do if they have the Ring of Gyges? Happy to discuss that with anybody later. So in conclusion, I know I have really run over. In conclusion, artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, and deep machine learning will continue to progress at a dizzying pace. However, we must educate our young, especially in Africa, solidly in STEM, so that they can handle artificial intelligence and make it beneficial before it seizes power from human beings. The ethics laws must be modernized before singularity makes them obsolete. We must create an economy that gives opportunity for all before artificial intelligence exponentially magnifies inequality. Artificial intelligence safety research must match artificial intelligence progress to avoid catastrophe, like autonomous nuclear weapons. Africa is deluding itself if it thinks it can leapfrog into the fourth industrial revolution without superb basic and high school education, especially in STEM. There must be a 180-degree mindset shift, transformational leadership, and honest and loving governance, because these are the superstructure for the resuscitation of African nations. Africa has everything it needs to catch up with the developed world. It's only if we are ready to take advantage. Thank you very much. And this is a picture of mine with my kids. This picture was taken a few years ago, one of the villages we operate in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. That was powerful. And before you started your talk, I'll let Vitalis, go right after this. I failed to introduce your book, which I know that there are several controversial topics in that book, but some of which would be part of our conversation today. And quickly, before we get into the next section, Rescue Thyself, Change in Sub-Saharan Africa Must Come From Within. And this is what actually struck me. It was a review by the Northern Star. By the way, this book is available on Amazon. Rescue Thyself is one of those rare books that slaps the reader in the face with reality. Sometimes so ugly, it brings tears to eyes. So I think I was slapped a bit in the face today. I was hoping to wait for that slap until I read the book, but I'll just have to cue that up for after I read your book. So with that, Vitalis, I turn it over to you.
Thanks very much, Howard. Wow. Take that 2 slaps because I got slapped triple. And what an amazing, what a powerful message there. Wow. Dr. Oyeni, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And I know that you've just opened a can of worm here. And I hope time will permit for us to kind of just go in and my mind is tickling with so many questions. And I know our audience are waiting to chime in and ask questions and maybe offer some comments as well. But I will let Maha make her comments from there, and then we will go. We're going to break out. We go to the lounge. Please, you go to the lounge and just pick a table. And I would like Professor Oyeni to kind of give us some directives. Maybe we can just say we discuss the 2 topics that are on the table here, and maybe some of the things that he has kind of thrown at us, and see how we can digest that. And he's going to come around and be able to just interact with us on our different tables. And then we'll come back here in the main auditorium and be able to just kind of talk about some of those things that, are really itchy right now to the hearing of everybody, so we can all participate and get that information. So, Maha, please go ahead. Ma, we cannot hear you. I'm not sure if your microphone is muted.
Hello? You can hear me, right?
There you go.
Yes,
Hello? Professor, thank you. In Arabic, we say shukran jazilan. I'm really grateful to you. You give us more confidence on African mindset. And what you said, like we have to change our mindset. I really realize that it comes from your own experience, because I studied artificial intelligence in China, and there my African colleagues, they say it like we are young, and I don't understand why Africans and Arabs, when we talk to them about innovation, they said this is not for us. Like we African and Arabs,
Wow.
we are thinking like the white think about us. Like I remember when any terrorism attack comes in France, we Tunisians, we start to look about us. Oh, is the one who did that? He came from Tunisia or not? Inconsciently and consciously, we start to believe that we are the terrorists, we are the stupids, and all AI, new technology, new neuroscience. This science is for white people. So when you say it, we have to change your mindset. It really comes directly to my bottom of my heart. As an Arab, as an African, as a Muslim, I have to believe, and I have to make my fellow African and Arabs and Muslim and all of people who come from the south side of the world, they have to believe that science has no color. As you said, it's connected to our mind. It's not connected to where we come from or which color we do have. So thank you for your study. Thank you for your intervention. I'm 100 and pleased. Then I give the floor to Vitalis, and I see a lot of messages in the.
I think I had some connection issues there. Yeah, I had one comment as well here, and what comes to mind is something I used to tell. Well, I still tell my son this, and I'm not sure exactly where I got it from. It's just something that throughout my experience, through life, is if you don't use your mind, someone else will use it for you. And with the introduction of this Neuralink and the direction that the technology is going, it seemed to me that eventually, at some point, someone else will actually be using your mind for you through a brain-computer interface, right? So that's quite profound.
That's powerful. Again, a lot to. I mean, I'm so excited here because this is like right down my alley. You will know me. I'm very big in this whole issue about mindset and and leadership development. So I'm so excited. But again, I'm just here to facilitate and make sure that the people that are here can get the best out of this. So we're gonna jump straight to the lounge. And please,
Vitalis, if I may suggest.
Oh yes, please.
I was thinking that we ask some questions here in front of the general audience to help
whatever works.
Some of the questions in the yeah.
Okay.
So if you don't mind,
we have one question right now. We can deal with that, and then move to the lounge if need be. Or maybe we could maybe just flip it a little bit, because I mean, look, this came out of the left field and slap in the face like it did. And I think that maybe just to catch on that momentum of the excitement and the itchiness of us being able to chime in and ask some questions, maybe we can just go right into that right now. And then if we have time at the end of the session, we can go onto the lounge and we can have some more personal conversations. So thank you for that flexibility and for suggesting that, Howard. That's really good. So I'm just going to read off the first question that's here, and it's a comment and a question as well. And this comes from Dr. Solomon Owagbole, and he says he's an advisor in Nigeria, and he says the snake that devoured the hen's eggs are fiercely lying around to ensure the hen remains barren. How do Africans emancipate themselves from neo-colonialism grip, using the compromised and leveraged stooges in place to ensure the pillage gallows? Professor, I hope you get that.
Well, that is a very, very powerful and interesting question. But, it requires at least a 2-hour a 2-hour discussion. But the bottom line is this: the issue of, you see, even if you go all the way back to history, to slavery, you will see that slavery is evil, but there is probably no population on earth today that had never been enslaved. Even when you read European history, Europeans at one time were enslaving themselves during all those wars in Europe. Okay, the 30-year war, the war between France and French Revolution, they will capture people and use them as slaves, as spoils. So not to talk of the Israelis in Egypt, okay, for 400 years. And so there have been so many things. So the excuse of slavery, in my view, is totally unacceptable. Because the people who have destroyed post-independent African nations, many of them don't even know the history of slavery. You see, I was born in the colonial era, and it is really a sad commentary for my generation, many of whom did not return home, or those who returned home then came back to Europe or North America, to see that the people who did not develop these nations, they grew up in the colonial era, and to consider the colonial era as the good old days. Can you think about that? If you live in the United States, to consider the 1960s and 1970s as the good old days. So the point I'm making is that there is this miseducation regarding the issue of colonialism, imperialism, and slavery. Because you see, God, if you believe in the Creator, God has made you and given you a unique brain, and you have a unique talent. You are a unique individual. You have a unique DNA. Your DNA is not shared with, even identical twins do not have the same DNA. So it's in your DNA to use your mind. And your mind, is not in your heart, and it's in the brain. God has given everybody a talent. And so you have to use that talent. So much to say about this question, but it is not an excuse. The failure of the leaders is the failure to realize the fact that they should not look at themselves via the prism of the color of their skin. Every African must look at himself or her through the prism of his or her brain, which is not black. There's no difference in the structure, in the shape. If you take a biopsy of your brain, nobody can tell whether this is Chinese or there is nobody that can tell. And the good Lord has given you everything you need.
Wow, thank you so much. Dr. Solomon, I hope that answers your question. I'm going to go ahead and read a comment and also the next question. It says, do you think that Africa is prepared to develop AI in its lands? Don't you think that we have many challenges to address first, like access to broadband? That's a question from Aicha Jeredi, an advisory board member for the AC of DC.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Now, is Africa ready for AI? Probably not. Probably not. Or maybe there are certain islands. You see, the reason I would probably say it's not ready is because even if you have a facility established, say in Ghana, Rwanda, Kenya, or anywhere, that facility cannot sustain itself without help from the United States, from Europe or China or India. So you don't own the data. You don't own the technology. You don't own the security apparatus. Okay? You don't own the technology to take care of the security, the hacking. So even if there is any institution or university in Africa today that wants to develop AI, you still have to rely on China, the United States, or Europe, and so on. So that is the problem. And that is why this issue of basic education just rips my soul every day. We have to look at those pictures I showed you. There are thousands of villages like that. I have seen hundreds of them. I have tons of them on of their pictures on my cell phone. So unless African leaders start from there and you start developing these young people, it's really going to put Africa in a bind within the next 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah, Vitalis.
I'm going to turn it to Howard and Maha here in a second. And there are more questions coming in from the audience. Just be patient with us. We're going to get to them. And I just want to read this one follow-up comment from Dr. Solomon as a result of the response you gave to his question. He says, the open secret of Africans' brain drained and looking for white savior and validation is all packed in the above, assuming he's referencing your response to that question. But I just want to ask one follow-up question as we segue to Maha and Howard here to interact with you a little bit more. Is we today we hear in the news of this tech company has raised X amount of dollars. This Nigerian-based company is raising hundreds of millions of dollars, and you go to look at all where that investment is coming from. It's coming from from the West, and people whose origin you might say is not from the continent. And so we're trying to gain this independence where we can be able to do things ourselves. And you mentioned yourself that Africa is rich enough to be able to finance its own solutions. So why are we saying we're the solution for Africa, but yet we're still creating this dependency syndrome that you mentioned is something we have to run away from? And you mentioned few African leaders that are actually taking action to that. And why are we celebrating that, oh, this is such a huge accomplishment? But when, based on what you presented here, it looks like we're entangling ourselves even more. Because if somebody is giving you that money or financing you to do that, they're dictating the terms. Isn't that a fair statement to make?
Absolutely.
Okay. Can I answer to your comments?
Sure.
Thank you, Vitalis, Thank you for your comments. Thank you, Professor Cervantes, for your transparency and honesty, because generally when we meet our Pan-African leaders, they give us a lot of good energy, but they don't tell us the truth. So now today we have to say the truth. Are we able or not? No, we are not. Why? Because we are still dependent to Western, and also we don't have spirit of national sovereignty. On n'est pas souverain. We need a straightforward national politics, economical policies, which how can I say it? Which respects our nation, our land, and we need real brave leaders who can take back which is related to us. Like, for example, in Tunisia, until now, we cannot have an open market because everything is still related to France. So if I want to make business with Chinese, because I studied in China, and I think I can be a good, I can help my country for empower the Tunisian-China relation, but we cannot. Everything is blocked because the market economy is under the France governance. So I think what we need, as you said, Doctor, is national sovereignty, bravery, and we need brave decisions to overcome these challenges and to overcome this dependency, because we cannot talk about leverage of internet while all the techs and even the companies who are working on internet, for example, in Tunisia, we're all under France. It's Ooredoo, it's Tunisian, everything belongs to France. So how can I talk about raising Tunisian economy while the tools itself is made by France and is connected by France, even the data? Let me tell you something, like if I want to know about how many users back home, I had to reach to the website of French embassy, of l'Institut Français de Coopération. There I will learn about my people. I will learn about my own people. So in this way, I don't think if we can raise or go nowhere. And it's the same thing, I think, with most of African continents. And I give the floor to Howard for other comments. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Maha. Appreciate that. So, I've heard several questions so far as it relates to Africa, to the continent, and to the world. And, 2 points when coming back to the intersection of AI and neuroscience. And your comment, Dr. Ayeni, that our brains are all the same. You've seen from a clinical perspective, the brains of people from many regions. And so back to a part of a question that I heard earlier about the broadband connection, and how that will affect how AI becomes pervasive on the continent of Africa. And then let me tie that to a question that I have here. So we're told on one hand,
and I hope that it will end up soon, inshallah. Thank you, dear.
So we're told to unplug, right? In the West, at least. Unplug from our devices, our digital devices, your iPhones, your Androids, you name it. Yet, we are creating ways to directly interface with the base operating system, your brain. So Neuralink, is one such example. And doing so by bypassing, what I term as the last firewall, right? Our senses, our sight, our hearing, logic, our experiences, or maybe culture. So what are some of the implications of such action, and perhaps some of the unintended consequences? So assume that, we have broadband is pervasive and AI is pervasive in the developing world, specifically Africa. What are some of the consequences of having this external interface through the BCI or brain computer interface to then connect yourself as a node in this broader ecosystem?
The consequences are enormous. And the bottom line is that it will rob you of the control over yourself. You will lose control of the very reason for which you were created. The control of your conscience and of your essence, of your cognition, of your desires, of your behavior. It is a dangerous path, and that is why I really like Life 3.0. I think it's a book that people have to read. Because this artificial intelligence has really taken off. The more you read about it, the more you see how much research is going on. It's just like biotechnology. Remember, a few years ago, there was a Chinese that was going to be doing editing of DNA. Okay, where I want to be 6 feet tall, I want to be slim, I want to have this type of eye, and so DNA editing. So, and fortunately, the ethicists and the excellent leaders, have clamped down on that, and all the world experts, okay, in genetics, in biotechnology, they don't want to go that path because that will lead you to eugenics. Okay, eugenics. You want to create the perfect human being. And that is destruction because we are all created to have communion with God, not to become God. The moment human beings are willing to become God and not to have communion with God, you don't want to die. You want to remain young forever. You want to do whatever you like, and so on. That is the danger where Neuralink. And if researchers and world leaders do not get together to put a break on this, this is where it's going to end. And the people who will suffer most are Africans because you don't have the infrastructure, the research institutions, the expansive knowledge to even dampen the negative consequences. So this issue of brain-computer interface is a slippery slope. It is really a slippery slope, especially since what Neuralink is trying to do is that look at the chip that they put in that monkey that could play video games. So you want to put a chip in the brain of millions of young Africans, and then they just carry it and it's connected to their mobile device. So it is still something that is very difficult to understand, but is very, very troubling. But fortunately, many artificial intelligence researchers, the top ones in the world, okay, they are really looking at this. And thank God, Mr. Musk is on board with this. He doesn't want you to go that path.
Wow.
So, to follow up on that a little bit, I think I have a little graphic here behind me, if I could bring that up. But, what I see here is some of the, the medical applications for having a link to your brain, right? So I see value there. That's where we are today. However, and here, I should point out that, this is not a feedback loop, meaning it feeds back to the brain, but it, actually feeds back to your senses. So, you're seeing that let's say a prosthetic arm, you're controlling a prosthetic arm with some augmented implant, right? So you send out the signal, and the signal is processed, and then you're able to control some prosthesis, right? So with that said, that's what we sort of have today, right? And with that said, so who will get to collect and use the data created by patients or consumers as we progress this technology further? Who will get to control that data?
All right. You see two important words in what you've just said: patient and consumer. You see, all the implants that we put in the brain now, all these devices, okay, that you use for somebody, who has lost an arm, then you put a robotic arm there. Then, if they just think, okay, I want to make a cup of coffee, or I want to pick up my phone. Once they have that in their mind, then the robot will pick it up. So that is a patient. So you are treating a human being so that human being can do what he or she wants, what he or she desires to live a normal life. like the slide I showed with the electrode deep in the brain, in the thalamus. That is to treat Parkinson's disease. So we are treating diseases, we are treating injured people, people with prosthetic arms or legs, So that is to allow that human being to achieve his or her own desired goal. It's completely different from somebody just putting an implant in your head and they are collecting data that you have no control over. You don't know what they will use it for, and can control your mind eventually, as I showed on that slide on singularity. Once you get to that level, okay, and artificial intelligence can create something like GPT-3, okay, it will just take off. You have no control over it. Now, all the people with all the devices you have talked about, they have control over them.
Wow. Maha, do you have anything here? I have several questions here. This is so profound to me. I like to.
Let's say hand in the audience if we can take that.
Okay.
Thank you. Actually, for instance, I don't have any questions. I'd rather to give the chance to the others, who our colleagues and our friends who are texting us on the chat box.
Thank you, Maha. And
no, please, can I come in here?
Please.
I want to take questions from people who are opposed to what I've said. And let me tell you why I'm saying this. Because my experience...
No one is against you, unfortunately. We are loving you, Professor.
Okay.
No one is against what you said.
No,
it's difficult to find.
I really mean this because, you see, there are people invested in the status quo. And if nobody is against me, I am so thankful to African Chamber of Digital Commerce. It shows you the type of people you have, people who are looking for something different. It really shows, because when I wrote my book and I put some of these things in the book, for example, when I challenged, if you want a review of African history, you have it in chapter 2 of my book. And I asked the question, what happened to the ethos of our ancestors? They were not beggars. There was no World Bank, no International Monetary Fund, no Bill Gates Foundation, no Ford Foundation, no United Nations. And you had all these great empires. So what happened? So, and then people criticize me and so on. So I'm thankful, but I really want, if there's anybody who doesn't agree with what I've said, I want to take that question and have that dialogue with that individual.
Very important. It's a necessary dialogue for us to have. So let me go to the audience. Mr. Chinadu, you had your hand up earlier and you put it down. If you want to do that again, that's fine. You're welcome to do so. Let's give the mic to Mr. Eric Kagama. Eric, I'm going to hand over the mic to you now.
Thank you. Hi, thank you, Prof. It has been an enjoyable session. Howard Anglin and Maha Juini and VP Vitalis Tita. This has been pretty engaging. And quick apologies to people that are watching. We had a little technical hitch, so we forgive us for taking that long to get on stage. But I think it has been an incredible. Just hearing, Prof. Without taking much time, just quick question. I know you have, through your career, your incredible, career. What do you see as a major difference? What keeps you awake at night? In terms of where we're venturing. Let's say the likes of Neuralink, and then there are a lot of pros and cons. So what keeps you? I know you did touch on the possibility of that becoming being misused. And talking about Africa now, are we just like we're seeing with vaccines now? Are they researchers, or are we actively participating in the things that are emerging? Are we just waiting to just be one of those guinea pigs. When those chips are ready, they will just say, "Hey, let's go to Africa and implant, just implant these things in people's brains and see how it works." But the question, the first one I want you to touch on, what's the major difference in the span of your career and what you're seeing that are emerging? What keeps you, what excites you and what really scares you as we venture into the unknowns? Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. What excites me is the fact that I know that Africans can do it. I know that the majority of the nations in Africa can achieve what Singapore achieved. If we take care of that triple element in the vertical superstructure that I talked about, I know we have it in us. Our ancestors have it. I know that if you believe in God and that we are his children, it is unthinkable that he will assign inferior intelligence to a subset of his children. You have to look at it from that broad perspective. And that's why I showed that final slide, Imago Dei. Imago Dei, which means the image of God. You are all created in God's image. So, it is unthinkable to me that the sovereign Lord, in all his mercy, grace, and goodness, will assign inferior intelligence and capability to a particular subset of the human race. And that is not proven by history. By history, look at African history. So it means that we just have to kick ourselves in the butt, excuse my language, just like the Ghanaian president is doing, the Rwandan president, people in Botswana. We can do this. That is what I'm excited about. Now, what disturbs me most is that you have people who are invested in the status quo, and they will not even allow the young generation, okay, who want to go in another direction, unless you have somebody like, like the president of Ghana, who says, no, I am taking my nation in another direction. Or the president of Rwanda, who said, our problem is failure of mindset, and I'm going to go in another direction. So that is what concerns me. Unless you have people at that level, you need enough of them. You need a critical mass. And that is why your generation, you need a critical mass in every nation, where you will say enough is enough. You go into politics, you go into policy, you go into public service, and you really get into the ring. But the ring is very dangerous because of the people who are invested in the status quo. Another thing that keeps me awake. Look at those slides I showed. Okay, thousands of schools like that across Africa, and then you have these young men and women now in their 20s and 30s who are educated in that environment. Look at that science lab, like a trash, a trash can.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have millions of young Africans like that now, and they will be growing up in this age of artificial intelligence. So I am really concerned about that aspect.
Absolutely. And before I exit the stage, if you will permit me, Dr. Sylvanus, what's the? I have my second question is the implant. Going back to what Ellen and the like are creating. Are we now? Is there a possibility of having preloaded intelligence where you could have a chip and preload it with a lot of with a whole lot of data, and then basically implant in a human's brain, and then you save them. First, you save them as the student loans, and then this plug and play. That's my second question, and thank you, moderator, and everyone, Vitalis, for letting me hop on here and ask my question. And I'll exit, and then Prof can go ahead and answer the question. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Well, that is an excellent point. You see, right now, everything that goes in your brain is called sensory, sensory input that goes into your brain, or you think about something, then you process it, and you behave, you respond. The thing with this technology is that right now, this small device that they are putting on the surface of the brain is collecting information from the brain. Okay? It's receiving information, and that information now is being transferred to the computer, and so on, and then used in a way that we don't even understand too much. Now, I don't know what will happen in the future, because you cannot implant a device in the brain and then think that you will use it to change somebody's mind. You see, the mind is a very complex term. There's not an area in the brain where you say, oh, this is the area of the brain that controls the mind. We know the area of the brain that controls, I know that as I'm moving my right arm, I'm using the left side of my brain. If I'm right-handed, the side of the site in the brain responsible for my speech, comprehension, reading, writing is on the left side. Even if you are left-handed, about 50 to 60% of them, the region of the brain that controls language is still on the left side. But here, we don't know whether it is possible for them to introduce information into a human brain through this device. We don't know. Now, everything they are doing so far is on pigs and monkeys, okay? They have not been, as far as I know, they have not had the approval to test this in humans. But when that happens, and it will happen, I don't know what the technology will be at that time that will be able to provide information to particular areas of the brain and what it will be able to do. It is just an unknown at this time.
Awesome.
Right. So
this is getting really, really exciting. Howard, if you will permit, can I just go to the audience and take a few more questions? All right, thank you. All right, I have a question here from Odukama George Will. He says, this isn't a challenge, but Prof, we are talking solutions here, or moving towards finding solutions to our underlying problems. Okay? Let me get a more closer view to that. Most of which are centered around dependency or on resources from the West in terms of adopting AI. So what would be your comment to that, Professor?
Well, this is a challenge because right now, most African nations, except probably South Africa, okay, they do not have the resources, all the technology hubs in this country, okay, at MIT, Harvard, okay, Stanford, California Institute of Technology, UC Berkeley, and then in Europe, Oxford, Cambridge, and then China. The Chinese are really almost neck to neck with the Americans. The level of research is so deep now in AI. And unfortunately, African institutions, they do not have the funding, they do not have the infrastructure. So it is very difficult for them to compete. But this is an arena that maybe the African Union has to come in. I think there is an African Institute of Neurological Sciences. I'm not quite sure about this, but the academic wing in the African Union really has to take this up. They have to make it a priority. And then maybe the African Development Bank, somebody has to get in contact with Dr. Adeshina. I think his name is Dr. Adeshina, okay, the president of the African Development Bank. This is something they really have to get into. Africa cannot afford just to lag, to stay there while the rest of the world is just heading for the moon in this arena. So I think the leaders of African nations, somebody has to get to them. Maybe the African Union, African Development Bank. This is the way to go.
So a follow-up question is from Sharon Steele Odukaman. She said, how do we become self-sustainable to venture into creating solutions that are powered by emerging technologies?
Well, to become sustainable, I think the main question there is, who owns the data? You see, because anytime you talk about technology, unless you own the data, unless you can control cyber warfare, and unless you have the capability to improve on your technology, then you are always dependent on somebody else. So I know I'm probably not answering this question. You see, the problem we have is that our deficits are so deep. They've run so deep over the last 40, 50 years. But even though we are in a big hole as a continent, I believe that we have all the resources. We have the brain, we have the natural resource. And one thing we do have is the weather. As you know, you can wear, shorts and slippers in Africa, 12 months a year. So we have the resources to catch up. But I think initially we still have to depend on the West and some people, if they like the East, while we grow, but time is running out. We have to start training our young people, make sure that they have first-class science laboratories in all our high schools, computer education from primary school level, so that maybe in the next 10, 15, 20 years, we will at least not be as far behind as we are now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Professor. And if I didn't represent your question very well in the audience, please feel free to correct that, or you can just raise your hand. We'll give you an opportunity to come up on stage and be able to ask that yourself. Thank you so much. And then I'm going to just hand it to Howard.
Yes, thank you, Vitalis. So my next question, let me go into the ethics part of things. And, behind me, you probably can't see that very well, are two photos, right, of two Africans. So that's Timnit Gebru and Elon Musk. So on one hand, Elon Musk with the OpenAI and Neuralink as well. And as Dr. Ayeni had mentioned earlier, through OpenAI, they created this GPT-3, which looking at this definition here is, I had it here somewhere. But essentially, through GPT-3, this system is able to essentially, write these human-like articles, as if they were real, right? So, we're progressing quite a bit. So if we go back to the topic of the intersection between AI and neuroscience, at some point, there will be that intersection, right? So we have this Neuralink device there in the center somewhere, right? So on one hand, we have OpenAI and Neuralink with its brain-computer interface, and then on the other side is the ethics of things, right?
Yes.
So as some of you may already know, you may want to research if you don't. So Timnit Gebru from Ethiopia, she she was formerly of Google, and basically I ran into some difficulties because of some disagreements around AI and the use of large data sets for these language models, and some of the inherent and potentially built-in biases. So how much more work do we need to do from the ethics perspective to address some of these upcoming trends? And so that's the prelude to my question. And well, not a question, it's more of a comment. So artificial intelligence, is learning more about how we work, and through this open AI and this GPT-3 thing, right? It's learning more about how we work, right? It could even write our language, right? So a recent National Academy of Science studies, it showed how AI can learn to identify not just our language, but vulnerabilities in our habits and our behaviors, and use those to influence human decision making. So you may not even need to have this device in your brain, but through AI, it could influence our behaviors through the models that it creates to essentially, have us change our minds. And you imagine when we connect those two together, the intersection with this Neuralink type device where we're directly connected to the mind, and then we have these AI models that are able to influence us, change our minds. Like, what are your thoughts there? I know it's a long-winded question, but Professor, hopefully you captured all of that.
Yes, well, let me first address the issue of ethics. Now, if I heard you correctly, you said how much more do we need to do to address this issue of ethics? The emphasis, what I pick up in that sentence is the we. Who are the we? You see, right now in this space, the main players, the main characters are outside Africa. The 1.3 billion Africans, in my view, based on the information available to me. Okay. I spent decades as a neurosurgeon. And there's a reason why I stayed here. It's not that because I didn't want to go back home. I made several attempts to return. Okay. So the deficit in the neurosciences in Africa is so profound. So the deficit in AI is even more profound. So when you ask the question, how much do we need to do now regarding who are the we? The problem is African leaders, with all due respect, I'm not insulting them, okay? My comments are not meant to be adversarial at all. I'm not an adversary. My love for the continent is just boiling within my bone marrow. Okay. African leaders, when you say we, African leaders are not in this space. That is just a fact of life as we are today in the world. So the we you are talking about the National Academy of Sciences here in the United States. You are talking about President Biden. You are talking about Prime Minister Trudeau in Canada. You are talking about the British Prime Minister. So those people understand this. They know where these things are going. They are in contact with all these people at Silicon Valley. They are in contact with Elon Musk. They are in contact with all these incredible physics professors and cosmologists and researchers at MIT, Stanford, Harvard, Yale, Oxford, Cambridge. So those people understand this. So they can, you see, the scientists here, for example, can call the White House and make an appointment with President Biden, with the science advisors. So those are the people Who will take care of the ethics? And again, Africa is not in the loop. They are not in the loop. So when you say we, and that is where it comes from. So the ethics here, okay, unless they make it global, it has no force on the African continent. And when you have people there who don't even understand, they don't have the knowledge. So it is a huge problem. So as far as the ethics is concerned, I can assure you that there are people here in the West, especially in North America and Western Europe, who are really concerned about this. Okay, that's why, the beneficial, the artificial intelligence beneficial movement, they are really concerned about the ethics, especially when it comes to autonomous weapons. It is scary. Absolutely scary. I won't go into that. Okay? Now, you talked about the issue of language, vulnerabilities in our behavior, beliefs, and desires. We don't know where this is going, but fundamentally, as a human being, okay, each one of us, you have your beliefs influence your desires, and your desires influence your behavior. Beliefs, desires, and behavior. You see, once you have technology that can tingle with what the good Lord put in your brain at birth, we don't know where we are heading for. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I can predict what.
And Professor, I apologize for interrupting you. I've just heard from the host that we have about 20 seconds left.
Oh,
It's been so much, should I say, fun, but it's very interesting, on my part, and I'm sure for the audience as well. Vitalis, I turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Howard. And Maha, any last words?
Thank you for your valuable contributions. Professor Silvanus, thank you for each and everything. I learned a lot from you. And one day, I hope, inshallah, that you also attend my book review, because I'm also an author. And I think young people like me, like Howard, Vitalis, all of us, we are the one who are going to make the Africa we want. And this is my promise to you, Professor. We will make it one day. We will make it.
Amen.
So thank you one more time.
Oh. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you one more time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I will give the Professor any last comments before we close out the room.
Well, I just want to thank you for inviting me to participate in this conversation. And I really wish African Chamber of Digital Commerce the very best.
Thank you so much. I feel like we should do this again because I didn't even ask you my questions, and I have a rap sheet of them. I mean, it's out the wazoo, but there's still more time, and the good Lord gives us good health and life. We will have this opportunity again. And I just want to say 2 comments here, right? And take it and digest it like Professor have been saying, that digest stuff. Without a clear understanding of why you were born, you will never succeed. That's a very big statement. But don't just take it for what it is. Think about it. You will never succeed. And if you don't know your purpose, anything seems right. We need definition in life. We need to understand where we come from. We need to understand life from a perspective of a creation standpoint. Professor mentioned about God creating us, and I referenced Genesis 1:26, that talks about the definition and the composition of who we are. We're created in the image and the likeness of God. And if you understand what that means, then you will not be thinking about people being defective, and then we're trying to bring different things to fix what is already there. We can't fix it. God created us perfect, 100% perfect. And we shouldn't blame him. We should blame ourselves. We should blame our leadership. We should blame culture and society, our upbringing. We should blame our belief system, like Professor just talked about. You are what you think, and that's your belief system. The belief system is the framework through which you operate life. And so if you want to change that, think about that belief system and how it was formed. How did you get there? AI is good, for the things that it's good for, but then it's also bad, as the professor has also explained that to us. I am so grateful and blessed to be a part of this conversation, Professor. I'm honored to be in your midst here, in the midst of Harvard and Maha. Thank you guys for being here on stage with me. For the audience, thank you for being here and being patient. We hope that you took home something, at least something that you can cook. And if you cook it, please share with us. We're very willing and open to continue this conversation outside here. Tap into the resources that were mentioned here, and most especially tap into the African Chamber of Digital Commerce, where we have conversations like this